John Jones, a well-known figure, entered a cave near Utah Lake with the intention of exploration. During his search, he decided to set a new record by going into the tightest space in the cave. Little did he know that this decision would be the last one of his life. He was crawling through the narrow passages of the cave, known as Nutty Putty, but lost his way and accidentally entered a part of the cave where no one had ever been before. The space was so tight that even moving his hands was impossible, let alone breathing, and unfortunately, John got stuck upside down in this situation. This is the story of 26-year-old John Jones, whose last 27 hours were spent inside this cave. Welcome back, viewers, to Fusion Arc. Near Salt Lake City, Utah, there are small rocks containing the Nutty Putty Cave, a hydrothermal cave. In 1960, the cave was first discovered by a man named Dale Green, and since then, thousands of adventurous young people have come here to test their skills. Nutty Putty Cave is quite famous for its tight, slippery, and winding paths, and there is only one way to enter, which is just 30 inches wide. Only young people with a waist and chest smaller than 30 inches can enter. About 20,000 people used to come here each year to hone their skills, but between 1999 and 2004, a few incidents happened, raising many questions about the cave's safety. In one instance, a 23-year-old young man was stuck inside the cave for 7 hours, while another young man was trapped upside down for an entire night. Due to these incidents, the authorities closed the Nutty Putty Cave in 2006. However, professional cavers argued that the cave should only be closed to those without caving experience, as they were usually the ones who got stuck. On the other hand, officials claimed that the Nutty Putty Cave was like a ticking time bomb that could take someone's life at any moment. A battle for the cave's future continued between professional cavers and officials, and finally, in 2007, it was reopened with new rules. A management committee was formed to permit only those with substantial caving experience and professional equipment to enter. To enter Nutty Putty, one had to apply for a permit 21 days in advance. John and his brother Josh Jones from Salt Lake City also applied for this permit. On November 24, 2009, at 8 p.m., 26-year-old John Jones entered the Nutty Putty Cave system with his group. The two brothers had some prior caving experience, but it was their first time in Nutty Putty. Everything was normal for the first hour inside the cave, during which they explored the biggest cavity, called the Big Slide. This was the point when John, Josh, and their two friends took the risk of going deeper into the cave to its most challenging part, known as the birth canal. The birth canal is so tight that very few people have ever reached it. Not only is it incredibly narrow, but finding the path is also quite difficult. In the past, many people got stuck on their way to the birth canal. However, John, his brother, and his two friends were quite fit, so they decided to venture to the birth canal, while the rest of the team stayed behind. The idea to reach the birth canal was originally John's, which is why he led the way. The path was so tight that John was crawling on his stomach, thinking he was entering the birth canal, but unknowingly, he took a wrong turn into a passage called the corkscrew. This was a place where only the skinniest cavers could go. According to the cave's map, John should have taken a right turn towards the birth canal, but he took a left turn instead. As he moved forward, the passage got tighter, and he couldn't turn back. He kept going, hoping the path would widen ahead, allowing him to turn around. He saw a place below where he thought he could turn around. However, things worsened here because, unfortunately, when he entered the 10 by 18-inch path, there was a dead end ahead. Now John was stuck upside down in a space the size of a washing machine, with his head down and legs up, his hands pressed against his body, and unable to move. John made several attempts to free himself but couldn't succeed even once. At this point, he started calling out for his brother. After a few minutes, when Josh arrived, he could only see John's legs. Initially, he made fun of his brother's condition, but when he realized the seriousness of the situation, Josh also panicked. Josh grabbed John's legs and pulled several times, but this only made things worse, as John slid further down. Stuck upside down, John could not move his body at all. At this point, both brothers realized they needed professional help. The problem was that there was no mobile signal in this deep part of the cave to call 911. Josh had to come out, make the call, and return to his brother's location. Approximately 3 hours later, the first rescue team, led by Susie Matoa, arrived on the scene. She tried for 2 hours to free John, but he was stuck worse than they had anticipated. The space was so tight that Susie even cut John's jeans to create half a centimeter of more room, but that didn't work either. Eventually, Susie, exhausted, came back outside. John's wife, daughter, and 30 more rescue team members had gathered outside. They were all considering different methods to free John, including the option of amputating his legs. But they finally agreed to use ropes and a pulley system to pull him out. The challenge was to drill holes into the cave rocks for the pulleys in such a way that the ropes wouldn't hit the rocks, putting all the weight on the pulleys. The pulleys were drilled and fixed into the cave walls, which carried the risk of rocks breaking and blocking the path, but there was no other option at the moment. During the drilling, some rocks broke and slid down onto John. Working at a depth of 700 feet was very challenging and time-consuming, and due to the narrow path, only one rescue worker could go inside at a time. The number of rescue workers outside had now exceeded 100, but none of them could do much. To make matters worse, a doctor on the rescue team announced that since John was stuck upside down, he only had about 10 hours left. After this time, his organs would start failing one by one. The human body is designed to remain upright, with the heart located in the upper part of the body. The heart pumps blood throughout the body, with about 80% of it supplied to the lower parts, where gravity helps the flow. However, since John was upside down, his heart had to work harder to pump 80% of the blood upward, requiring overtime effort from the heart. The doctor warned that John could have a heart attack at any moment. Upon hearing this, the rescue workers accelerated their efforts to at least straighten John. After hours of waiting, the pulleys were installed, and John's legs were pulled, but soon new problems arose. John's legs were in such a position that they couldn't bend, and when they were pulled, his feet hit the ceiling of the cave. With great difficulty, they managed to pull John out of the narrow shaft significantly, so much so that a rescuer could see his face. Later, that rescuer mentioned that John's eyes were red, and there were moments of joy on his face. For the first time in the past 19 hours, John could see outside the narrow passage-like shaft. Now, only one last pull was needed to bring John entirely out of the shaft, but suddenly, the pulley system failed again, and John was stuck back in the same place where he had been for the last 20 hours. In the final attempt to save John Jones, they tried drilling and breaking the rocks around him, but it was probably too late by then. John had stopped moving and wasn't responding to anything. His wife tried to revive him over the radio, but it was of no use. At this point, a brave paramedic was sent down to check John's pulse, and what everyone feared turned out to be true. John Jones was declared dead on November 25, 2009, at 11:50 p.m. John's wife couldn't believe the news that her husband had died because of such a small mistake. She hoped that maybe the pulse hadn't been checked correctly, and her husband might still be alive, but the reality was in front of everyone. However, due to John's good health, he managed to survive 17 more hours than the doctors initially predicted after 10 hours. Many plans were made to remove John's dead body, including the idea of bringing it out in 2 parts. However, it was finally decided to leave the body where it was and seal the Nutty Putty Cave permanently, declaring it John's grave. Even today, John Jones's dead body remains in the Nutty Putty Cave, in the same position, serving as a reminder of the dangers of cave exploration, and a plaque in his memory is still present outside the cave. We hope you liked this video from Fusion Arc. Please like and share it, and thank you so much for your lovely comments. See you in the next amazing video.